Well, hopefully I don't start crying during this video. That would certainly be awkward. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Smoky Dude, and Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy holidays. I know, really going in on that theme even though we are 3 days away. Yeah, I know, I'm doing really great on that. But this is basically my Christmas review. I'm going to be reviewing one of the most famous Christmas stories of all time, and that is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. I do not own a copy, so yeah, I'm only using the Amazon page. Don't worry, this will not be a reoccurring thing. I know that happened in my last video, but just trust me on this one. It is difficult discussing A Christmas Carol, considering that there are so many adaptations and so many people have talked about it, reviewed it, done a lot of things with it. I mean, it's probably one of the most well-known, famous, and beloved stories in the world, so mostly everyone probably knows what it's about. You've at least heard of it if you've come across A Christmas Carol. I mean, there have been so many films, plays, musicals, comics, and just so many other adaptations of the story that it just feels like we've run out of things to say about A Christmas Carol. But I'm here today to add some of my own thoughts to the ring, so hopefully that'll go well. What always strikes me about Dickens' work is how he can give these larger-than-life characters such life. How he gives these characters who would almost seem buffoonish at first hand and feel real and feel like they could be real people that you could see in your real life. I mean, Dickens was certainly a master of caricature, of pulling out all of the weird eccentricities that human beings are capable of, but somehow he gives them traits that makes them feel believable. I mean, lesser writers certainly would have made characters like Scrooge or Cratchit into straight-up buffoons. But luckily, Dickens imbues these characters with such humanity that it feels like these people are people you can know in your daily life. Also, Dickens showcases his gift for bringing things to life off the page with his depiction of London. I mean, you want to talk about world building? I think that Dickens' London is one of the most vividly portrayed cities that I have ever seen in fiction at all. I mean, fantasy writers, take notes. Dickens' London is lively, and it is filled with color and all sorts of strange characters, even if Dickens isn't afraid to paint a bleak picture. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that a lot of Dickens' work can be moseying, can be a little hard to read. I mean, Dickens was basically like a pulp writer. He was paid, like, $1 a word, maybe a penny a word at that. But A Christmas Carol, on the other hand, is a very tight and meticulously crafted. Dickens might have been struggling when he was writing this book, but one wouldn't be able to tell. Dickens' voice is ever confident, and he paces his story exactly as it needs to be. A Christmas Carol, I might dare say, is Dickens' most efficient work as an author. It knows what message it's trying to get out, it knows what it's trying to do, and the emotional punch is just effective enough that it stays with you afterwards and doesn't overstay its welcome, as some of his other books might do it from time to time. Dickens is often misunderstood, I think, as an idealist or a sentimentalist, as Oscar Wilde might put it. But if I could borrow from Raff or Derry when talking about Terry Pratchett, I apologize for that, you find that when you read Dickens' work, you actually find someone who's deeply angry. Angry about the injustice of our world, and angry about the injustices that befit the poor and the unfortunate of the world. And his writing is filled with venom towards greed and the inherent unfairness of our world. There's just so much rage in his writing, as well as there is hope and optimism at the same time. If Dickens were a sentimentalist, then he probably wouldn't have gone through the trouble of showing how the world can be a truly harsh and unforgiving place, especially for people who are less fortunate. I mean, there's a scene when Marley visits Scrooge, and he basically shows all of the ghosts being forced to see all the people that they weren't able to help during their life. Yet what softens Dickens, for me anyway, is his belief in the kindness of average people. What makes A Christmas Carol so powerful is its message about how it's never too late to change and to find joy in your life. And I think that's a message many of us need to hear right now in these perilous times. Life isn't fair, of course, but that doesn't mean we should just lay down and die or give in to despair. It's up to us to leave the world a better place than when we found it. And I think that's what that means to have the spirit of Christmas. And Dickens knew it well, and he kept it well. I'm only glad that he showed us how. Now I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, Britton, there's been so many adaptations. What's some of your favorites? Well, it's tough. There's been a lot of them. It's kind of like Oliver Twist, though, again, for some reason, Dickens is always the one who gets the most adaptations. Like, not even Shakespeare, I don't think, has gotten as many adaptations as Charles Dickens has. The first one I saw was the Jim Carrey version. I saw it with my grandma, even though, hilariously, the other day we went to church and we watched a thing about a Christmas. The sermon was about a Christmas Carol, and we watched that movie as like an illustration of what he was talking about. Even though I have very definite memories of seeing that movie with my grandmother. So yeah, it was kind of a weird one. There have been a lot of really great Christmas Carol adaptations. I really like the 70s version with Albert Finney as Scrooge. That one's really good. I like the Disney version with Scrooge McDuck, who was kind of a parody, was meant as a parody of Ebenezer Scrooge. A bit of a lighthearted one, but still a parody. I also really enjoy the Alastair Sims one, of course. He was an incredible Scrooge. I mean, he captured that. He captured his grumpiness, but at the same time, he captured that just immense joy that he feels once he gets up and realizes that he's been given another chance at life. And it's a beautiful thing. Though I probably will say that my favorite, and I actually found this from the Nostalgia Critic, so yeah, take that as you will. But my favorite is probably the George C. Scott version, because, man, he was incredible as an actor. And also, really the ending, I really love how they expanded the ending of A Christmas Carol, and he goes to see Fred, and he basically just lovingly admits how wrong he was, and he just says it with this humility. Like, there's no snark, there's no sarcasm, there's no... and it's not, like, there's still dignity, but there's this just humility, and there's this grace in George C. Scott's performance, where he admits that he was wrong, and he tells Fred that he was sorry that he... And, of course, the final line, God forgive me for all the time I've wasted. So good. I love it. I love that version. But there's been so many versions. I do like the Jim Carrey one. I mean, there is some stuff I don't love. Like, it does get a little too, goofy. But, I am impressed with Jim Carrey's performance, though. I mean, there's some people who've made fun of him for his Scrooge performance, but... I don't know what to say. I mean, Jim Carrey is just incredibly gifted with just his body movements and just how he can use his body, how he can move it, how he can use his inflections to create the character of Scrooge. And it's kind of absurd, but again, I wouldn't say Jim Carrey's the best Scrooge. He definitely how do I say it? He definitely, he definitely exaggerates Scrooge a little bit, which I think kind of takes away from what makes Dickens so great, which is that he can kind of have that balance between the absurd and just real enough where you can believe that they're real people. And, but Jim Carrey, man, he's great. I thought he was, I thought it was really impressive, though. And, of course, Gary Oldman's in it. He plays Cratchit. Fantastic. My God, I love Gary Oldman so much. But I digress. I digress a lot. But yeah, I'd probably say George C. Scott might be my favorite. Though Alastair Sim and, like, George and Albert Finney, they're very, very close. Even though Finney also kind of exaggerates a little bit. I haven't actually seen the one that they made with Guy Pearce as Scrooge. I haven't seen that one yet. I do want to. It looks a bit like how the story was originally intended. Because I mean, when you read A Christmas Carol, there's some dark stuff in that story. Like there's some really dark parts in that. And they really captured that kind of gothic atmosphere, I thought. And I also really like Guy Pearce. And also Andy Serkis is in it. So, yeah, I need to catch that at some point. But, yeah, I love A Christmas Carol. I love Charles Dickens. And I will say that I still prefer Oliver Twist the most from him. But that's also because I grew up reading Oliver Twist. I love that story so much. And A Christmas Carol is very close. I will admit. It's tough because... Dickens, man, he was an incredible writer and storyteller. But I think that I think A Christmas Carol is one of his best stories. And like I said, it's probably his most efficient work. You could read it in like a day, like if you really wanted to. Like you could sit down, read it, have a good time. It's not quite like A Tale of Two Cities where yeah, you might get a little bogged down. I mean, I love A Tale of Two Cities. I think it's a brilliant piece of work. But definitely not one I would recommend first, even though I've read it third out of his oeuvre. Thank you, Liam. But yeah, now I'm just rambling at this point. That is basically all my thoughts about A Christmas Carol, the adaptations, the many, many, many adaptations, the original story, all of the stuff that has gone into it, and why I think it is timeless, because again, it's never too late to change. It's never too late to find that joy in your life, and I think that's a beautiful message that more people need to hear nowadays, because, well, the world we live in would be a much darker place if A Christmas Carol didn't exist. But, yeah, no, I think that's all I got for today. If you want to check out my Twitter, I am at SomeOkieDude. You can find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. And you can find me on Discord. I would love to see you guys there. You can join me, hang out with me, talk to me, recommend some books back and forth. That would be fun. Or even anything else for that matter. But, yeah. So, yeah, that's basically my Christmas video. Merry Christmas to you all, and God bless you, everyone.
Bah humbug.
Thanks, Dad.